or sellers at Tuesday's trade deadline, tomorrow's trade deadline. We're going to talk about that and kind of go into should they be buyers or sellers, and yeah. What is up, Finn fans? I apologize if my voice sounds a little crappy or if I clear my throat a lot. I am currently getting sick because my daughter's getting over being sick, and you know how it is being a father and having a child that's sick. It happens. So we're going to look at the Miami Dolphins now. We're sitting at 2-6, unfortunately. They are currently, I think, the number 12 seed, number 5, 6 pick. Are they buyers or are they sellers? Where are they in that situation? So we're going to look at all that good stuff, and I'm going to kind of look at the future of the Dolphins over the next 3 games, where they could end up depending on how other things fall. And that also can kind of imply if they are buyers or sellers. So real quick, Barry Jackson came out with this tweet last night at 11:52. I find incredibly interesting. That's not the one I wanted. That's not the one I wanted. Let's just go with this one, and I will make it more appealing to your eyeballs. But he came out with a tweet last night that I found very interesting, and I do want to look at it and talk about it and kind of go into detail. Again, because it pertains to are we buyers and sellers. So last night, Agent Drew Rosenhaus said on his weekly WSVN segment tonight, again, that was last night, Dolphins have been aggressive and making calls to try to add players the past 3 weeks and are not expected to trade any of their top players and have not given up on the season at 2-6. So if we go off of what Drew Rosenhaus said, then it feels like it. The Dolphins are buyers when it comes to tomorrow's trade deadline, or at this point today, maybe they make a move. So if you go off of what Drew Rosenhaus is saying, they are buyers, and that could make sense in the grand scheme of Chris Grier trying to keep his job. Now, they don't think that the Miami Dolphins are down and out, and they don't want to give up on the season at 2-6. Now, I was going to do this later on, but I'm going to jump into this real quick because I thought what that was said there was very interesting. So we're going to go into who the Dolphins can sell and buy, but first, I want to do this real quick. Sitting at the number 12 seed. We're at 2-6. We have the Titans, the Jets, the Bengals, the Colts, the Broncos, and the Chargers ahead of us. I honestly don't think we'll ever catch the Ravens, and I think it's between the Ravens and the Steelers. So for the Miami Dolphins, and I know, listen, to me, the season's over. I'm just doing this for poops and giggles so we can decide are they buyers and sellers and go off of what Drew Rosenhaus said the team is doing, okay? So don't comment below being like, just let's have some fun. The Dolphins, there's no way on God's green earth they're going to catch up with the Ravens or the Steelers. That's going to either be the number 3 seed or the number 5 seed. So their only chance is to go for the 6 or 7 seed. Now, the Denver Broncos just lost to the Ravens. Lost bad. So they're sitting at 5-4 now, 3 games ahead of the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins play the next 3 games that are winnable games, especially if you look at the way they just played the Buffalo Bills. And again, if they are buyers and they add a potential piece a la a pass rusher that would help the defense dramatically, then all of a sudden the Dolphins become actual favorites in the next 3 games humongously. And even the Packers game. Now that we got a pass rusher, the defense can actually match what the offense is doing. But I'll get to that. Let's kind of go into why would they think at 2-6 the season's not over. So again, Titans, Jets, Bengals, Colts. Colts are falling apart. Broncos, Chargers. These 2 teams are the ones we're chasing. So if we have any iota of possibility, we need essentially all the teams in front of us to fall apart. And if you look at the next opponents for all these guys. So again, we'll go to the guys that are ahead of us, the Tennessee Titans. They have to face the Chargers, who are a team I was talking about, the Vikings, and the Texans. They are going to suffer and they are going to lose. So the Dolphins don't really have to worry about the Titans if they take care of business. You got the New York Jets here. They got the Cardinals, the Colts, a bye, and then Seattle. So there is a chance that the Dolphins and them can be tied going into the week 13. But this Colts game, they're going to win. This Cardinals game, let's not poo-poo that so quickly, because they actually played really well and they have to travel to the West Coast. Then you got the Cincinnati Bengals, who are taking on the Ravens. The Chargers, they got their bye. And then the Steelers, their next 3 games are tough, and especially if they lose to the Chargers. They just beat the Raiders pretty bad, 41-24. You got the Colts. The Colts got the Bills, the Jets, and the Lions. They will lose the next 3, and the Dolphins will leap ahead of them again if they take care of business. You got the Denver Broncos, who are taking on the Chiefs, the Falcons, and the Raiders. There's a possibility the Dolphins can catch them. And like I said, the Chargers will be facing 2 of the teams that I am talking about. So what does this all mean? Well, what this means is we will go back here. I think the Chiefs will win tonight. We'll go back here and we'll go into the next week, and I will show you. Now, in this quick simulation, the Dolphins are going to win the next 3 games, so that's all that matters. Here, I think the Ravens beat the Bengals. I think the Chiefs beat the Broncos. I think the Bills beat the Colts. I think the Chargers beat the Titans. This one doesn't really matter, but I'll just pick what I think off the top of my head. Don't be surprised here. So let's just say the Cardinals here, this, and then the Dolphins win. Dolphins go up 1 spot. It's nothing too crazy. Then we go to the next week. Dolphins are going to win out. Then this one's going to be an interesting game, but I like the way the Ravens are playing. This is the important one here. I will get back to that. I think the Bills will lose this one. I think the Jets will beat the Colts there. But look at this. Already the Dolphins are kind of moving up, but we're not done. Boom, you got the Vikings will destroy them. I think the Browns beat them. Rams will beat them. They will beat them. I think the Falcons, who just won their game, will beat them. And I think the Texans will hand them. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Both of these teams are kind of middle of the pack, very good competitive teams. This is where the Dolphins are in a situation. If the Bengals win, we want the Bengals to win so we can catch up, but they're going to still be ahead of us, right? I honestly think that this is a game that the Bengals could win. So let's go to the final one that I'm talking about here. We got this game don't matter, but I think this, obviously with the Tennessee Titans, who are now falling all the way down to here. I think the Dolphins will beat the Patriots. All of a sudden, look, we're jumping back up here. Raiders Broncos is interesting. I think the Ravens do beat the Chargers. This don't matter, and then boom, this happens here. Now this is a big one. Very easily, the Broncos can win this game, but you look at the situation, and this is probably why the Miami Dolphins think that their season isn't over. This was just a quick let me pick games really quickly on what I could think. But if the Dolphins win the next 3 games, and kind of what I said, or teams that are supposed to win happen, then you look at the Miami Dolphins, and they are the 8th seed, and they are 1 game out of potentially being the 6th or 7th seed in the wild card. Now, again, that was just a quick little. Do I think that's happening? No. Let me reiterate that one more time. I do not think that is what's going to happen, but that's probably what the Dolphins are thinking. Hey, if we just add a piece, if we add the piece we need at the trade deadline, we can very easily turn the table around the next 3 games. Other teams will be playing each other, or we'll be playing difficult opponents, and we can get up there and potentially get in the wild card and make the playoffs. So the Dolphins themselves think that they're buyers. But me as a Dolphin fan, 2-6, all the stuff I showed you is so hard. For the rest of the season, we got to win, and win some more, and hope and pray that every other team kind of falls flat on their face. That sucks. That sucks plainly. So if the Dolphins were sellers, who would they sell? Well, Raheem Mostert. Your fumbles are driving me nuts, and the future's already on this team when it comes to Devon Achane and when it comes to Jalen Wright. You also have Jeff Wilson Jr., who hasn't seen the field, but he is healthy. He is another possibility. What are you going to get for them? 4th-round pick, a 5th-round pick. You're not going to get anything crazy. Raheem Mostert is still playing really well, even though he has the fumble-itis for the past 2 games. You probably get a 4th-rounder for him. You have Jordan Poyer. You probably get nothing for him. I just don't want him on the team anymore. He cost us the Bills game. I'm just bitter there. Teron Armstead, again, if you were in a seller's situation where you think that the season is over, you could probably get a third-round pick for Teron Armstead because he's the number one tackle in the NFL right now, and he's staying healthy. So you could probably get a high pick in around the third round, which the Dolphins don't have right now because the comps haven't been given to us. All of a sudden, we have 3 third-round picks to be able to move and do what we want on the future. I'll tell you why selling is probably not going to happen in a second. Tyreek Hill, there's a lot of teams that want receivers. You could probably get a first for him. And then that's a situation where you are really building off the future of Washington and Waddle and potentially going to grab somebody else in this draft. And you're just like, look, it's not going to work, this or that and that. And then you have Emmanuel Ogbah. You would only sell if the GM was already fired. So are the Miami Dolphins sellers? No, because Chris Grier's still there, and Chris Grier wants to keep his job. And Chris Grier wants to show that he can keep his job and show that he is a GM that deserves to keep his job by making moves that he thinks are necessary. So no, they are not sellers. They are not sellers. And if I had gun to my head to decide what are they going to do, I think they don't do anything. And I think they kind of run with it, and I think they try to figure it out and hope that Bradley Chubb comes back and yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. And, it was a few stupid plays that killed, hurt the Bills game. And, a lot of good things came out of that Bills game. We should build off that and moral victories. Blah, 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 blah. Chris Grier is not going to sell. Plain and simple. We will not trade away assets. Bear Jackson even said that. Any Dolphins fire sale before election day trade deadline would shock me. The GM who wants to keep his job isn't admitting failure or making rosters worse to hurt his chances of keeping the job. They can blame things on injuries or tough luck or global warming or whatever else. Exactly. They aren't selling anyone. They're going to keep everybody because Chris Grier wants to keep his job, and he sells. And why would he sell and get draft picks for a new GM that's coming in? You know what I'm saying? They're not sellers. Buyers, on the other hand, if you flip it over and go off of what Drew Rosenhaus said on the fact that they have actively been trying aggressively and making calls to try to add players for the past 3 weeks, are not expected to trade players away and don't want to give up on their second 2-6 season. Again, I showed you their thought process that they could very easily still be in this playoff hunt if they just win games that they should have won games, but the next 3 games are extremely winnable. You saw what the Rams did with Seattle. You saw what the Patriots did, and you see what the Raiders are dealing with. There are some guys out there that the Dolphins potentially could go after, but it depends on the asking price. You don't want to mortgage your future. Also, cap. But again, you can move off of players and save a ton of cap space. First, the guy on my list is Zadarius Smith from Cleveland. Now, Cleveland beat the Ravens, so a lot of people are like, maybe they're not fire selling. Maybe they're not, and then they lost. So Zadarius Smith has 5 sacks on the season right now for Cleveland. The Dolphins need a pass rusher. You're going to hear me talk about 4 pass rushers because, plain and simple, the Dolphins need a pass rusher. If they can sack the quarterback, if they can get after the quarterback, then all of a sudden the secondary plays better, and then all of a sudden our defense starts forcing 3-and-outs and turnovers in the way our offense is playing. We will win games, and we will win games that we didn't think we could sitting at 2-6, like the Packers game. You could beat the Packers if you got a decent defense who's going to sack them. You could beat the Jets. You could beat the Browns. You can... That's it. Like the Texans, you saw what the Jets did with the Texans, but I don't think our D-line would get there, but we could get Sealer. See what I'm saying? Like things could change if you add like a legit pass rusher that could add to Sealer when he comes back, and Calais Campbell, and if Chop all of a sudden is, not getting, falling down all the time. That's where we need the help. So games where we're sitting at 2-6 right now and looking like we're going to lose to the Packers. They're better than us. Jets are going to sweep us. 49ers, Texans, we're going to lose. We'll probably beat the Browns. We'll win 4 more games. So we'll be sitting at 6-11. We suck. All of a sudden you add a legit pass rusher like Zadarius Smith. You're like, we could win some games. We can get to probably 9 wins, maybe 10 wins. 11 wins? No. But we could win some games. So there's that. Jadeveon Clowney with the Carolina Panthers. Jadeveon Clowney had 9.5 sacks with the Ravens last year. Who was his D-line coach? Well, that was Anthony Weaver, who's our defensive coordinator. He might be like, hey, if we bring Jadeveon Clowney in, he can help us with the pass rush situation. And I bring up the name of Jadeveon Clowney because he is coming from the Panthers, who are on a fire sale. He won't cost a lot. Maybe you get him for a fourth, a fifth, because it's Jadeveon Clowney. He's got like 2 feet, well, 1 foot out the door already. Whereas Zadarius Smith might cost you a little higher. Jadeveon Clowney will not. Talking about a guy who might cost you a little bit higher, Azeez Ojulari from the Giants. Now, his name's been floated around a lot about a potential trade, and he has 6 sacks on the season. He would help this defense out immensely. It's probably going to cost you a second-round pick to get him. Do you think that's worth it? Again, he's a guy you could build off the future. It sucks that we drafted Chop and Chop isn't doing much, but you could bring him in. He's young. You could build him off the future. You know, you have Jalen Phillips on his 5th-year option. He doesn't stay healthy again. He's gone. His replacement is Azeez Ojulari. That's a possibility. That's going to cost you a second. You have, obviously, Max Crosby for the Raiders. The Raiders are falling apart. He has 6.5 sacks on the season. He has 14.5 last year. He is not young, but he's still in his prime. He's a guy you're probably going to give up a second-round pick for him. I would be ecstatic if we got Max Crosby. I think he is a monster, and I think adding him and his playability and putting him with Calais Campbell and Sealer and Ogba, I think all of a sudden, if Chubb ever does come back, we would have a legit defensive line at the end of the year and potentially win games that all of a sudden I'm thinking we're not, like the Texans and the 49ers, become a possibility because of what he brings to that defense. And then I threw Budda Baker in there. I know the Cardinals just won again, but our safety situation is a hot mess, and I want Jordan Poyer gone quicker than you can say, how you doing? So, you know, there's that. But the 4 pass rushers I would add if I was a buyer, Zadarius Smith, Jadeveon Clowney, Azeez Ojulari, and Max Crosby. 3 of those guys are going to cost you probably a second. Clowney will not. So if they're buyers, like Drew Rosenhaus is saying, that might be the name we go after. We might go after a pass rusher. Get the right one. We went after we went after Bradley Chubb. It kind of fell apart. If you're going to do it, get the right one. And it could help us. It could make this team better. And we can beat teams that we didn't. If we had a pass rusher that was able to get 2 sacks yesterday, we would have beat the Bills. There's too many times that Josh Allen had so much time in the pocket. If we could have got after him more, got more pressure on him, we were scoring. 7 offensive drives. We scored on 5 of them. We just needed a defensive stop. So you add a pass rusher, that might help that there. So, but in all honesty, what do I think is going to happen? I don't think anything's going to happen. What I would like to happen is I would have fired Chris Grier about 3 weeks ago, and I'd let the new GM decide what he wants to do. But we're sitting in a situation where Chris Grier is going to want to save his job, so he might try to make a move. We'll see. Comment below, let me know, and obviously if a move happens tomorrow, I will make a video, but I will put out the film breakdown tomorrow. We will look at some of the plays, like the hit and the Tua underthrow and some other plays. I think Tua played really well, so we'll look at some of the good plays. But other than that, I will see you tomorrow. Like usual, stay classy. Fins out.